Welcome here to a very special Saxon Spotlight as we are making history with the first ever in over 19 years of broadcasting. I've never had the blessing and privilege of working with any equestrian teams. And now, through my exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Alfred University and the Saxons, they have three different equestrian teams. And I now have the honor of making history here on the show by having a spotlight on equestrian. And I'm here with Helene van der Merwe of Johannesburg, South Africa. And we are here to talk about dressage and Western in the world of equestrian. And it is my true honor to have Helene here. Helene, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to be here.
And so, Helene, you come from Johannesburg, South Africa. Bring me into life there, because if I've heard anything about the continent of Africa, it's that what we see on the news is typically not what life is actually like. How would you describe South Africa?
I think a lot of people here think that South Africa does not have like civilization. Like they think we're still living in the wild, and like a lot of people, first thing they'll ask me is, does the lion walk past your gate in the morning or like in your driveway? And that's not the case. The animals are all in like the Kruger National Parks and places like that. So it's still similar, but also very different in the way we live, because we do have all the amazing animals, but it's not the same as where deer would walk up to your house here in the US. Like the animals don't walk up to your house in South Africa like that.
And so you said that that's the most common misconception, that people think of Africa and they just think it's a giant like open field of animals everywhere. So if that's the misconception, how would you describe home to what it truly is?
I mean, I think it's very similar. Like, I think the cities are very different in the like infrastructure, but it's still like um it would be similar in like everyone has somewhere to live and you still drive to places. Um, you don't have the same amount of like public transport like you would in New York City or something like that.
Right.
You would mostly drive with your own vehicle because of the distances between places. But otherwise, I think the way in which we live is pretty similar.
Do you miss being home?
Yes, I do.
So so how did you find out about Alfred University? How did this all come about that you ended up here?
We had a group come to our school, our high school, when I was in my final year, and they were called the I'm 360 team, and they basically try and rec or they basically recruit people to schools in the US, which are a bit smaller, but um, where they think that you would fit best. So we ended up, they gave us like five options each, and they basically help you to find the school that they think you would do the best and basically excel at in the best way. So that's how I came to Alfred and found the equestrian team, and all of that is because they told me they thought that this would be the best school for me.
So you go through that process, like you said, like you have somebody looking to try and find that right fit for you. Are you happy that you had that bridge of someone looking out for you to say of where you want to go and what you want to do? We're going to help you, kind of almost like, an agency of sorts, help you find your right fit and your place. Did you feel like that took maybe some of the pressure off, and it was special for you to have that opportunity that somebody was helping?
Yes, I think it really helped in the sense to give you some stress relief, because they also already communicate with the schools before you even start communicating with them, talking to the school saying, would this person be accepted? What do they need? And they also took me through my whole visa process and stuff like that, where they give you all the information you need, because there's multiple different websites that you have to go to and do specific paperwork and all of that sort of stuff. And they also help you get the right information from the university to do all your paperwork. So I think that was really, really helpful, because also if you just had to go look into Google and say, okay, which universities are in the US, there's only a certain number that comes up. And Alfred or any of the others that some of my friends went to, definitely the schools weren't one of the first ones on the list to come up. And I probably would have never found Alfred if it wasn't for them.
And so when you have that kind of discovery process for what you specifically wanted, what did you tell this, the source that, you were able to go through for this information? What did you tell them as far as what you were looking for?
So I basically told them that I was a dressage rider, and that's really something that was a big thing for me. And then you usually give them around about a price limit that you're looking at. And then they also look at what your goals are. So what do you want to study and what do you want to accomplish? And um, then when they reach out to the universities, they find out which one basically fits you the best.
And so, like you said, you would have never found Alfred if not for, having this bridge in between. Do you reflect back on that, hindsight 2020, and are you happy that of all the places that could have been found for you, that Alfred was that connection that was made for dressage for you to continue your love for the equestrian world? Are you happy, hindsight 2020, that you ended up at Alfred?
Yes, I think I really am, because I've had experiences here that I believe I would not have had anywhere else. And I've made some really, really great relationships with people. And I've been fortunate enough to go to nationals in the last school year. And I placed an eighth place ranking nationally for Western. And I don't think I would have at a different school even considered doing Western if it wasn't for our coaching staff here that motivated me to do more than one riding style.
Yeah, in here in this very special Saxon Spotlight in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Alfred University on Wake Up Call and through Dan Tortora Broadcast Media, here with Helene this morning. When you, like you said, a branch out from dressage into Western, and if it wasn't for Alfred, you might have never done anything like this. To people that don't know, there's three different styles of riding that are at Alfred University, and those three different styles are dressage, hunt seat, and Western. You are a part of dressage as well as the Western style. How would you describe each of these styles uniquely to someone who has never been involved in the equestrian world?
So if we start with Western, you have to basically perform patterns that are similar to trail riding, reining. So it would be more like riding like a cowboy would have when they were like out in a field. And it's very specific to everything is specific to what you wear. So for dressage, you would wear like you would use an English saddle, whereas Western, you would use a Western saddle. And then with English riding, you'll wear breeches with a coat and a helmet. And in Western, you would wear a hat with a long sleeve shirt and jeans with chaps on or something like that. And then dressage is very specific to the movements that you have to do. And you, throughout your whole test, you ride a pattern. And you know your pattern and you can practice your pattern from earlier on. And then with the IDA that we do, you get 5 minutes to warm up a horse and then you go into the arena and you ride it. Whereas with the Western, you get on the horse and you go straight into the arena. But all of it is luck of the draw. So you basically have to know how to ride every single horse. And you don't get the opportunity to ride the horses beforehand. So you need to, as a rider, be able to ride anything, basically anything you draw.
And, so you're describing the Western style as well as dressage. What about the hunt seat? I know that that's not one that you do, but what's unique about hunt seat equestrian?
So the hunt seat similar to Western, do flat classes, which would be you go around and you ride, and they judge you on the style you ride and how you sit on the horse. And then the hunt seat also has a different class where you go around and you jump over obstacles, similar like they would, like based on like tradition of fox hunting and stuff like that.
So between, I know you spoke on spending so many years in dressage, but now having Western as part of what you've done and part of your world as a competitor, are they neck and neck as far as your favorite? Is dressage still your favorite? Where does Western fall into all this for you now?
I think I really, because I've been riding dressage my whole life, the Western is very different for me. And I really, really enjoy learning the new riding style. So at the moment, I would say I almost enjoy Western more because it's so much more challenging and I still need to read up so much more about it. Whereas with dressage, I'm a bit more comfortable already in it. And even though there's still so much to learn from it, I just really enjoy the challenge of learning something so different and so new, but you still get the opportunity to connect dots with the different riding styles and use the one to help you improve on the other.
And you said that you can use one to help the other. Helene, how does Western help dressage? How does dressage help Western?
So Western, you sit in a more specific, especially because we do horsemanship. So you have to be in an almost perfect position with your leg, and it just really helps strengthen your leg to be really nice and long. And in dressage, you still want that long leg, but not as much. But with learning to ride with the longer leg, it actually improves my balance a lot more because you have a bit less support and it's a lot easier to ride a horse with your knee a bit more bent. So to keep your balance, it just made it a lot harder when I was first riding Western. And in that way, I also, with Western, I learned different movements of how to use my hand and use the rein and ways to give the horse and just like it's a different riding style, but with that you can still learn techniques to transfer it over into the other riding style when a horse is different, or sometimes you end up actually riding a Western horse for a dressage show because that's sometimes just what would be in your draw. So sometimes then it's also really helpful if you end up riding a Western horse for a dressage show that you know how to ride it.
Yeah, and like you said, knowing how to ride the horses, you had made mention of the fact that when you're in these competitions, you don't have time with the horse before. So you're jumping on a horse that's a total stranger to you, you to them. How do you bridge that gap? Because it's not just, I mean, it's not like picking up a basketball going, well, I've never played basketball with this basketball, but I'm going to pick it up and see how it feels. I mean, you're on a living, breathing animal, and there's a connection that I think, people will say, be it a horse or a dog or a cat or whatever animal, there's a connection that you make where you feel like they feel safe, you feel safe. When you're in a situation where it is stranger to stranger, how do you bridge that gap of calming the animal and feeling safe with one another, because it is such a unique sport in that world?
So what we do is before we actually do the draw, they warm the horses up in front of us. So you make very detailed notes of how the riders are riding the horses and what their reactions are to what certain stuff, like what the riders are doing. And then by that way, you can learn a lot about the horse. And then they give you a very short description on, let's say the horse doesn't like it if you like kick him too hard or something like that. This would be his response. So they do give you a small description. But then the biggest thing is just getting on the horse and getting a feel and staying very, very calm no matter what happens already calms the horse. And a lot of horses don't have the same abilities. And when you first do your rail work, they'd say, so So you'd have a couple minutes where the judges judge you on the rail and you just go around on the rail of the arena. And that's when you figure out how to ride your horse and what they like, what they dislike, how much leg you should be using, because it's really easy to give in because you're not going to a certain place and you have the wall there that's guiding the horse already. So after that, when you line up, you end up doing a pattern. And when you do this pattern, that's when you need to already know, okay, this is how much this horse can give me. And when he gives that to you, you need to know when the point is to not ask for more and what this horse's ability is, because that's the only way that you can keep the horse happy. And if you keep the horse happy, then you're going to have a much happier, like nicer pattern, and it's just going to go a lot better because the horse will be happy. And if you give in to when they're being good, then they just go really well, because when you give the rein, when they're doing what you're asking, then you're telling them they're being good, and then they don't start worrying.
Do you feel like there's a way to communicate with your horse to kind of go a little bit deeper into that? You've been doing this for 14 years. So as a kid to now, do you feel like there's almost a language that can be spoken through? I know you kind of brought up body language and different things that you do. Do you feel like there's a way to communicate with a horse that you found that works when you're dealing with different horses?
I find that talking to a horse really works for me, because if you are getting nervous and you start talking, it actually calms you down too. But when the horses hear your voice being in a calm manner, then they also tend to calm down. I also like to tickle a horse on their neck, because then it just distracts them a bit from whatever's making them nervous.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just mostly talking, but in the dressage, it's actually really difficult because you lose points if you talk to the horse. You're actually not allowed to talk to the horse. So the difficulty level in keeping the horse relaxed is so much more in dressage. And that's one of the bigger things that I do like, because you have to learn to ride the horse with a lot more precision and be a lot more giving when you're riding them, with giving the rein and using less leg but more leg. And I just think that's something that is also a bit more difficult to that side.
So in dressage, like you said, where you can't talk to the horse, how have you found your own way to communicate where you feel like you keep the horse calm and the horse understands you, you understand the horse? What have you done over the years in dressage to help you communicate without words?
So something that I really like to do is, when I ride the horse and your corners, when you're riding through a corner, so your four corners, because you're riding in a rectangular arena, 20 by 60 meters arena. So when you go through the corner, that part is not judged. So if you what I like to do is use my outside hand, or the hand that's not close, the hand that's facing away from the judge behind the horse's neck. So if I'm close to the judge, I would use the inside hand. If I'm to the other side of the arena, I would use my outside hand, and I would just lightly scratch the horse on the neck, just to tell them they're being good, and just to because by scratching them on the neck, it's usually one of the ways we tell them you're being good, or if you pat them on their neck. But scratching them is a lot more subtle, and it's not as obvious.
Yeah.
So it just really helps, because they tend to almost drop their neck and relax their neck when you do it. And it just takes a bit of pressure off. And because you're not getting judged in those four corners of the arena, it really helps, because it gives you the opportunity to do it. But you have to be very subtle about it, because technically you're not supposed to be doing it during a test.
Yeah. So like you said, finding little ways to communicate. Have you ever had a moment where you felt like the communication was off or a scary moment where you felt like the horse wasn't on the same page as you? Have you ever gone through that before?
Yes, I think you go through it almost every single ride because
Okay.
you're riding a different horse every single time when you ride. And um, the thing is, at school we have over 40, I think it's almost 70 horses, and you ride a different horse every day. But that's how you learn how to figure out what a horse should be doing. And then they teach you certain maneuvers that you can do in the ring, um, that would set the horse up in a certain way to calm you down, and just so you don't make mistakes, but you maybe won't get extra points for it, but at least you won't be losing points because the horse is staying calm, you're staying calm, and it just brings everything together.
And for you, when you've had the opportunity to kind of grow and learn through all of this, Elian, why do you love it? Why is it a passion of yours? Because I feel like there's a difference, and I tell people this all the time in anything in life. You either love it or you think you love it. If you love it, then when something goes wrong, you don't give up. You don't even have that thought on your mind. You just keep going. If you think you love it, then you kind of just say, you know what? This was too hard. I'm not doing it. I'm not pushing myself. Why do you love the equestrian world? Why is horse riding for you such a passion and such a big part of your life?
Um, I really thought I have my own horse, and that's basically the one thing that got me into riding was having the relationship with the animals, because they're such amazing creatures, and they're they're just really they fulfill you in a lot of ways. And I think just learning how to work with animals, they teach you so much patience, and it's just it's really amazing the response you get when you're doing something right. Once you get something, the reward you get out of it is so much better. If you're struggling with something and you just keep struggling, but you try and you try and you try, eventually, like if you're like riding a certain horse and you're really struggling, like you're not getting along with the horse,
Yeah.
and it's really just an awful ride, but it's not the horse's fault. They're just, you're trying to figure them out. They're trying to figure you out. So you need to build a relationship. But eventually you learn different techniques and you learn how to ride them. And once you figure out what this horse needs, like you may be using your inside leg and the horse doesn't like it, or you may be using the wrong part of your leg, like certain horses don't like it when you use your thigh, but other horses may like it when you use it or may need it. And it's all of that. Once you figure it out, it's so amazing because the amount of reward you get for riding the horse then, and when they do everything you want them to do, it's really, really rewarding to see it. And there's always going to be mistakes, and there's always going to, like, I mean, your equipment has a mind of its own, so, but I mean, the horse just, it's an amazing relationship you get to build with them. And if you don't build a relationship or learn how to build relationships with the horses and understand them, then you won't be very motivated to keep going.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about this from an outside perspective of people being absolutely terrified to get on a horse, and you have to be on a different horse every single time. So you have to jump over a hurdle that so many people would not even try once, and you're doing it over and over again for every event that you do. So I think in the equestrian world, you know, people like yourself should be commended that most people are afraid to ride a horse. Most people are like, I'll ride it if I have a relationship with it. You're going in cold turkey, learning in a short amount of time what I need to know about this horse and how to make this, work out to the fact where the horse feels comfortable and I can have a good showing. So I got to congratulate you on that.
Right.
Absolutely. So before I let you go, here with Elian van der Marve of Johannesburg, South Africa, and of the equestrian world at Alfred University for the Saxons, a part of two of their teams here, dressage as well as Western. We're going to do a thing called rapid fire in a second, where you and I can ask questions about the horse world, or we can also, ask anything, music, movies, TV, get to know you a little bit better and put me on the hot seat as well. Before we get to that, I want to read off a few honors here. 2021-22 Rookie of the Year for you, Helene. 2022-23 Most Valuable Player, a team captain here in 2023-24. You're a Saxon Scholar athlete in the fall of 21, spring of 22, fall of 22, spring of 23, fall of 22, and pardon me, on the Dean's list for fall of 21, spring of 22, fall of 22, and spring of 23. When I offer all of those out there to the community listening and watching around the world, Saxon Scholar athlete not once but many times, Dean's list numerous times, and to go from Rookie of the Year to MVP and now be a team captain, showing your growth and evolution at Alfred University. What does all of that mean to you?
I think it just shows like you have to work hard to get what you want. And a lot of the words and stuff that I've gotten, I didn't even know about at that point. And it was a pretty big shock to me, some of the stuff like MVP that I got. And it just reminded me that hard work pays off, and if you make sure to just keep working and be motivated and just help your team, because still, even though in the equestrian world, when you go into the ring, it's every man for themselves. Learning to work with your team and motivate everyone, and still be able to shake the person's hand afterwards and say you had a really, really good ride after they beat you in a test or something. That's one of the most important things, because that's the only way you can build relationships.
Like you said, even when you're on a team, once you step in, you're by yourself. How do
Yeah.
you how does a team come together when there's this individual component to it? How do you still find a way to be a team?
It's very, very difficult. But just knowing, because we do stuff like team bonding and stuff like that, just like every other team would, and teaching each other and motivating each other, and just also the friendships that we build. You want your friends to be able to also do really well, and to be happy for them when they get something that you may not have, or you maybe competed for yourself.
Yeah.
So it's just a very big mind, like how you have your mindsets and everything. So we work on that a lot to make sure everyone understands, this is still a team, because we also have every show you have team riders. So these people are the ones who compete for points for the team every show, and that also becomes difficult because you're still competing against the team riders during the competition, and someone who actually may not have been a team rider may actually win that day, so then the team rider actually gets less points. So there's also pressures like that come up. But overall, our team has been really, really good at motivating each other and making sure that everyone feels welcome.
Now, that's obviously good to hear in the Saxon community, to continue that positivity, and a lot of fantastic messages I've had about just how close the community is at Alfred University and how much y'all care about each other. Let's jump into rapid fire. It can be about anything. It's not pre-planned. You get to put me on the hot seat. I get to do the same thing. It's 3 questions apiece. You get to start and you can ask the first question.
What's your favorite movie?
That's a tough one. I would say favorite movie. I've watched so many movies, and I also like to work in the world of screenwriting. So I would say I really liked Liar Liar as a comedy with Jim Carrey, and I remember the entire movie, like from start to finish. I would say the first Spider-Man, because I never thought I'd see my favorite superhero on the big screen, and that was back in 2002. And what other movie would I say that I could watch at any time? It's tough. I don't know. I would probably, I'm trying to think of one that like makes you think. Maybe What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams, which is about heaven and hell. It's a really good
Oh,
movie,
okay.
very deep movie. Causes you to really have to open your mind up. So I'd probably say that one maybe. All right, Elian, let's see here. What is your favorite song of all time?
Um, well, I don't think I have a favorite song to be honest.
Okay.
I did mostly grow up with songs from like Don Williams and Kenny Rogers. My dad was a really big country fan.
Okay.
So I do love my country music.
All right. Country music. Fair enough. What's your second question for me?
Where did you grow up?
Syracuse, New York. So came back here to start my business, and it's a couple hours from Alfred. And I just love it here. I love the blue collar. I love the hardworking people, and there's just a lot of wonderful people in this community. What's This is one I've never asked before in over 19 years, but I'm asking you this because I'm hungry in the studio right now. So, Elian, favorite dessert? If you could only have one dessert for the
Ooh,
rest of your life, what would it be?
my favorite.
Yeah.
In South Africa, they make a pudding that's called malva pudding. So it's like a brown cakeish pudding, and you would either put custard or cream over it, and it's warm usually when you eat it. And that's
Okay.
probably my favorite, yeah.
All right. I like that. I was hoping you would tell me something about home, so I like that answer. What's your last one for me?
Um, do you have any animals?
That's very funny that you say that because she's in my studio right now.
Oh,
So,
what's her
yeah,
name?
Lily. Yeah. So this is Lily. She's a Havanese puppy. They're from Cuba. And so her and her father are both Hispanic and Italian. Well, I'm Italian
Wow.
too, but Hispanic and Italian. So yeah, this is Lily. And it's funny that you said that because she was trying to get up on the chair here in the studio. So this is her.
Oh.
She's the best. She's the best daughter ever. And so my final question for you, Elian, let's see here. Hmm. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Favorite moment in the equestrian world so far?
Um, wow. Um, I think something that really got me was when I was at nationals last year, and um my coach walked up to me after I got my eighth place, and he said, "Well, next year we're gonna get first."
Yeah.
I think that was just knowing that my coaches all believed in me, and um having my teammates there, and even though it wasn't a first at that nationals, all of them were just so supportive, and we were all just really happy with all of our accomplishments, and just going to nationals was also great.
Yeah, and I think like you said, I mean, you eighth nationally, like that's
Yeah,
massive. That's huge. And for them to say, hey, we're gonna get first next year, that's really, really cool. So,
yeah,
I'm definitely excited for you, excited for things to continue in dressage as well as the Western world. I'm so ecstatic, Elian, that you got to make history for the first time ever. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I've never covered any equestrian teams, never been connected with a school that had it. And now I have not only gotten to do that with Alfred University, but you will go down in history as my first interview ever with anyone in the equestrian world. And so for Elian van der Marve of the Johannesburg, South Africa, wonderful home that we got to learn a little bit about today and their dessert. I want to thank you, Elian, for your time and thank you for letting me make history. I've been waiting very impatiently to speak to someone on the equestrian team. So I'm so happy that that got to be you, and I'm so proud of you and happy for you so far. And I can't wait to see what you're going to do next.
Thank you very much, and good luck with your stuff too,
Thank you. I
and
appreciate
all
it.
your interviews.
Thank you.